my name is Chrissy Clements. Everyone watches accesstv.org.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to this week's challenge. Today, I'm excited. We have a very special guest today. One of the things we like to do here on the challenge is challenge people to do something with their lives. Get up, get out, and do something different. Don't be afraid to be your best. So today's guest is world renowned. And you guys might not know him, but you're going to meet him today. His name is Corey Hutchins. He's a tap dancer and actor, and we're going to get right into it. How you doing today, Corey?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here, man. Really excited.
Wow. Now, I mentioned world renowned. I know some of the things that you've done as a dancer has taken you all over the world. Where are some of the places you've been?
Oh, man. Been all around the country. Been to a lot of different states. I believe 43 states.
Wow.
And Ireland and England, Germany, France, Japan, Taiwan, China, just to name a few. Around the world twice, basically.
Wow. Now, around the world dancing, what's it like being a performer, being young, African-American, performing, going to all these different places?
Wow, man, it's kind of a trip. It's a real energized feeling to be able to step into a different culture every week, or a different city every week, to get a different vibe from people, to be able to perform in front of thousands of people a night and share your talent and what you love to do the most, my hobby, my love, my best friend, to be able to share that every night and travel with it and let everybody see what I'm all about.
Right.
Is the best thing, yeah.
All right. Being able to dance all over the world, you have to have a skill. So how did it start out? Like, what led you into dancing?
Well, interesting story. I was born 2 months premature. So with that came a lot of complications. I had a collapsed left lung, and the main bits were I was diagnosed with minor cerebral palsy. Through that, I was able to go through rehab for a few years of my life. So by the time I was 4 years old, I had the correct movements in my muscles and functioning in my legs for me to have a normal life. And to be able to continue that, my doctors recommended to my mom to keep me active, keep him in sports, baseball where he runs, and, let him keep active. And for some reason, she decided to throw me in the dance. She saw that I used to walk on my tiptoes before the doctors were able to get my heels down. And I know she saw the Cosby Show episode where Sandman's dancing and with Bill Cosby and things like that. And she said, you know what, he'd be a great dancer. He's a great spark and things like that. And, she signed me up right there at the dance studio. So it's been since I was 4, yeah.
Wow. So over the years, I've seen you dance live. So to me, you're considered an expert. So as you're young, learning this craft, what was that like, having to practice and be disciplined?
It actually doesn't really hit you as a young child. If it's something that you love, you just keep doing it. I know it was just a different classes every week. I was your regular dance studio kid. I was going to the studio at least 5 times a week. taking different types of dance, different forms of dance, jazz, ballet, tap, doing gymnastics and things like that. So it was all about the fun at that point, and really didn't really get started until when I started in high school. When I was in high school, I really started to get into New York more and seeing the scene, the community, the professional community, and seeing how they operated, and really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that bond and that camaraderie with the groups out there in New York City. So that's when I started to realize that I wanted to do something with this craft, with tap, mainly. And just started to really work hard from there.
Now, I know education. Where did you go to high school at?
I went to two high schools, actually. I went to the Manchester High School, and I went to the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts for 4 years. I actually studied theater there and did tap as an elective. So I did a lot of intense theater studies over my high school career.
So let me ask you, when you're doing your tap dance, you're getting good at it, and like you said, as you transition into being a young adult, a teenager, when did you decide, like, you know, this is going to be my livelihood? I can make a living doing this.
I was 17. I just moved to New York City. I didn't really like the conservatory I went to. I went to a theater conservatory out in New York. Mm-hmm. And I was learning the same things I was learning freshman year of high school at the academy, as far as theater and focus and things like that. I was learning the same thing. It was like repeating myself. So I found myself just going to classes in New York, just finding different places to be at, different tap jams, different vibes. And when I started getting those phone calls, you come do this gig, you come hang out with us and do that gig. Would you work with these guys here? Would you work with these guys there? That's when it started to hit me that I could hang with these cats. I could hang in this world a little bit.
Right.
My name was starting to flourish a little bit out in the city. So I really started to hit me then that something could happen with this. Something really could happen with this. The checks were coming in, like, oh, I can actually make a decent living, or get by at the time, or get by with what I was doing. As a young college student, it was great. It was great to be able to just do that.
Now, that's always kind of, you hear the horror stories about performing. How does that work? Do you manage yourself, or do you have to bring somebody in, or is it just...
A little bit of both. At this point, I'm at the crossroads where I feel like I need someone to start to pick and choose and find places for me to be, because it is hard. It is hard for you to do everything by yourself and find things. There's certain aspects of the art and the arts together that you need to have more than two sets of eyes in places, that you need to have just not just yourself focusing on yourself. You need someone else focusing on you too.
Right.
And that's what I'm starting to realize now after doing what I've done and things like that, that there's another step, and you can't take all the steps by yourself.
All right. And so when you mentioned in the beginning when you talked about traveling 43 states and wow, a lot of countries all over the world, actually. How did that happen as a performer? What were you doing to allow you to travel that much?
It's funny when I look back on it that I did so much. Like, it's really sometimes it's really a blur where it's just like you gotta go. There's nothing you can do but keep with the schedule.
Right.
There's nothing you can do but keep with the schedule. What really got me uplifting is every week was a different city. Every week was you're getting on a plane or a bus to do something and go somewhere to be able to dance for weeks at a time. So that was where your energy came from, to be able to just go to a new place and explore it instead of being stuck in this one spot. It was never that. It was always an adventure. It was always a new place to see. Always have a map. You always with a tourist.
Right.
So that was just the big vacation time at that point. Like, you just feel like, wow, I get to explore and see things, meet people. And that's what really kept me going as far as that. I mean, yes, the traveling can get rigorous. You're with 70 people at a time on a tour. Really no privacy. You guys are still in the same hotel room. You're seeing everybody all the time. So it did get rigorous, and it did, you know, weigh you down at points, but it was always just the fact that just look out the window where you are. You know, you look out the window. I'm in the middle of Taiwan. We're not Kansas anymore. You know, it's just like, wow, okay, big breath of fresh air. Like, you're exploring yourself, you're exploring your life, you're exploring the world. So that's what really gives you that energy, that rebirth whenever things get down on tour.
Right. Part of one of the things that's fascinating about your life and being a performer is that where you end up at. And I know as a young person, when you're in the studio by yourself, do you make that connection? Like, one day I'm going to be like all over the world, or do you think it's important just to have a passion for the art and allow the business and the performance to kind of take care of itself?
This is this is funny because the questions you're asking me, I'm seeing them in two different lights. I'm seeing them in the way that I thought before I joined Riverdance, before I went on tour, and what I feel now. When I was on tour, well, before I was on tour, I was in New York. It was just about getting to class. It was just about going, grinding, doing things. It wasn't even a thought. A tour wasn't even a thought. It was, of course, a dream of mine. I was always talking to my mentor, Derek Grant, out in New York. I'd always ask him. He was on tour with Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk. So he was already through that. He seen that and knew exactly what tour was like. So I was always, you know, with the dream for what's tour like? You know what I mean? What's that like? And then sit there and dream what tour would be like. Then I got that phone call out of nowhere. It was like, would you be interested in Riverdance? And that's when it hit you like, okay, now I could really go out and do something with this. Then it starts to make a little bit more sense of, I wasn't just working on, okay, preparing my craft. I was really working on preparing myself to get out and do something with that craft.
Right.
Whereas now, now every time I get in that studio, it's grinding to take that extra step now. Like, I already took that one step to get on a Broadway scale show. Now it's okay. Now I gotta take that next step and get back there again and do something else and dance for the entire show.
Right.
Whole show will be about tap. You be in the entire show. So yeah, every time I jump in the studio, it's my mind frame is cutthroat at that point, knowing that there's other guys in the lab at the same time that I am around the world hustling for the same thing to get out and do it. You know.
Now, it's interesting, Riverdance, because you said that they give you a call. How take us through like how that happens? You're just doing your thing, and they say, come do this, and they hire you right away, or is it an audition?
Well, actually, it was who you know.
Okay.
It's so funny. You hear that all the time. Who you know, and that's really what the business is about. And like I said, Derek was hanging out with me, and his buddy was on tour with Riverdance for a while. Very recognized tap dancer, and he called Derek up. Said, "Listen, looking for some guys. You got any names?" And at that point, that's when I was, I go back to, me working up and how my name just pops up now. And my name popped up with a couple of cats that had already done tours.
Right.
And I was the only lonesome it was three of us. So I was the only fresh cat or, puppy dog
right.
in the group. So it was kind of a weird feeling. It was a private audition between myself and two other guys, and all the tapes were sent to Ireland, and I got a call maybe a week later and said, we'd love to have you. Put me on a plane, flew me out to Vegas to train, and I was running months at a time for years after that. So it was
that's interesting. So it happens that fast. It's like bam, bam.
If they looking for somebody, they gonna find somebody, and it's gonna be quick. The business is real quick. It's real quick. I didn't even know it was gonna happen that fast. I got a call that Christmas, said, would you want to audition? Come New Year, maybe a couple of weeks into the New Year, I had my audition. 2 weeks or a week and a half later, I get the call. A week later, I'm on a plane. So it was, pretty quick.
Now, the show was pretty intense. So you have to learn the whole show, then you meet up with everybody else, or?
Well, in the show, we do a featured number in the show, which lasts like 10 minutes. So when I flew in, they were already a month and a half on the tour when I flew in. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody. I spent their week in Vegas. They do the 8 shows a week and then travel. So they were there for 7 days. I got there and I did 4 days of rehearsal. Learned the 10 minute number in about 4 days. And then they put me on stage on the Friday the 13th, February, and the Aladdin Hotel. I don't think it's the Aladdin anymore, but yeah, it was that quick. Also, you get off the plane, they throw you right into the studio. So it was they keep you on the time schedule, and you gotta stay with it. That's what they're paying you for. So.
Right. So take me through that, because what happens is you're from Connecticut, small state, small kid doing your little thing in New York, and the next thing you know, you're at a major hotel in Vegas. What goes through your mind?
Everything.
Before and after.
Everything. It was wow. I had furthest west I've ever been was Alabama, so it was crazy that I'm sitting there on this plane knowing I'm gonna be landing in Vegas, and I hear I remember hearing the pilot. I'm on the aisle seat, and somebody's sitting right next to me, and the window's right there, and the pilot comes up. It's like, if you look to your right, the Grand Canyon. Here I am leaning over this person. They're looking at me like I'm crazy, but it was just so exciting and so refreshing to just get out and see something new. So that was real intense, and it was like you had to really straighten yourself out a little bit. Like, you have nobody to look after yourself but yourself now for a long time. So that was a pretty quick step too.
Now, when you perform, what happens with the public? So are people like in awe? Do they want to meet you? Is there interaction with the public when you're on tour?
Oh yeah. There's especially with our number. Our number is one of the most energetic numbers in the show. It's got comic relief between Irish dancers and African American tap dancers. You can see the difference in styles. You can see the difference in how the black guys hold themselves and how the Irish guys hold themselves. So it's something that kind of changes the whole show and gives people the idea that, okay, that fourth wall doesn't exist anymore. We let them in. It kind of opens them up. I was able to interact with the audience. Not everybody else in their numbers weren't allowed to do that.
Right.
So we had a little bit of an extra touch on the audience, which was great. I used to love the theaters that we would go to where the audience would sit right there on top of the stage, so I can be able to interact and see people, and see them smile and things like that, and see their energy, and see, okay, I paid this money and it's worth it. These guys are worth it. And there's times being in an all-white show, it's like three black guys in the show. And of course, we go out after the show. We come out the stage door. Everybody knows who you are compared to whoever it is. So you have the lead Irish dancer that worked his butt off the entire show. Would walk right by these hundreds of people, and no one would know who he is, just because he would blend in. And we stood out like coal in a snow, in the snowflake. So it was every night was different. Every night wasn't as energetic. Not everybody would be backstage waiting for you. Not everybody would want your autograph. But yeah, there was many times, many situations where the audience we never had a show where it was a bad experience with the audience throughout the whole entire show. Right. It was just from once the music hits in the beginning to the end, everybody's rocking. But our number kind of opens it up a little bit in the second half, where people are able to enjoy themselves more.
And a lot of people don't understand Riverdance, so if you could kind of explain it, because when you see it on the news, Riverdance, you don't really see the African American part of the show. So if you could kind of briefly describe, like, what is the show?
Riverdance is celebration of dance, is what I say. Celebration of dance in a Celtic mythology is the story. They have the storyline goes through all these Celtic myths. Through we have a flamenco dancer, we have Russian folk dancers at the time, and then it was a history of Irish too. So it was like, okay, the second half of the show is going into the New World, how the Irish took the boats over, and our numbers when the African Americans and the Irish meet in Harlem. And that's where, it's just a whole bunch of things. And that was, it kind of represented a little bit more where there was violence, yes, there was hatred between people, but there was always dance and sharing.
Right.
And sharing. And then you see the difference and the similarities between tap and Irish dancing. And you see the difference and the similarities between Irish dancing and flamenco dancing.
Right.
And then you see how Russian folk dancing had a part in helping out with the Irish dancing, their soft shoes. So it was really it's a big celebration of dance and music through Celtic mythology. And it's an interesting storyline.
Now, are there a lot of African Americans that would see the show?
Depends. It depends on the location. The locations, if we were down south and in rural southern areas, yes. If we were up in the north, yeah, I could pick 3 black people out of 1,100 in the audience. Right. So, yes and no. It all depends on where, pretty much.
All right. Now we're gonna talk about some stuff that happened recent. Now I know you were in the nation's capital, and if you could kind of take us through that experience and let people know what house you were at in the nation's capital.
Wow. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I think, man, it's right around this time. It's right around this time. About 2 years ago, I kind of remember and celebrate. I was able to be one of the many few tap dancers to perform at the White House.
Wow.
I believe that you can only count on one hand tap dancers that has been able to grace that the East Room. So humbling experience. It's just it's wild. Everybody keeps asking me, and it's so I'm still speechless. I'm still speechless, and it's just such a great experience to be able to perform and see that all my hard work does pay off at some points. And that point was a big point. As close as yourself and I are right now, I was standing up dancing in front of the First Lady, Michelle Obama. So it was an amazing experience. Scary at the same time with all the Secret Service around and things like that. You don't know what to do, what to touch, where to look around at. But, as soon as the First Lady came in the room, it was just a breath of fresh air. Everybody kind of just took a deep breath and relaxed. Mm-hmm. She calmed everybody down. She said, yeah, have fun. We're here to, do this and do that. I know we weren't supposed to give her hugs or anything like that.
They mentioned that to you?
Yeah. No touch, no nothing. And she came right up on stage and gave me a big hug and said, I love what you do and enjoy it. And at that point, if anybody gets to see the tape,
I've seen it.
It's just the look on my face is priceless after that. Like, wow, that was just. And before you know it, she's disappeared. They engulfed her and she's gone. But Forrest Whitaker was there. Sarah Jessica Parker was there. There was quite a few A-list celebrities there. That was really good. It was the biggest audience I performed in front of. Wow. Smallest audience I performed in front of.
The most celebrity time.
Yeah.
That's the word.
It was a couple of days out in D.C. and I'd never been to D.C. at that point.
Okay.
So that was just an adventure weekend, like for myself, and to be able to hang out with the young musicians from the Artist Collective. Those kids are very smart, very energetic, and they have great qualities. And it was good to spend some time with them, and we can share each other's experiences. Even though they're young, they got a lot of experiences and a lot of things to say. So it was a good weekend to be chaperoning and having a good time with the young cats listen to them play, and then being able to go through the security and knowing that you're gonna step foot in the White House.
Wow.
So that was an amazing experience. Amazing experience.
I could imagine. And it's interesting because from being in Connecticut all the way to performing at the White House, and you mentioned some A-list celebrities, has there been any time where you have worked with any other people that are household names in the industry?
Now I'll say not worked with. I was never able to do any projects with the man or do anything as far as that goes with him. But Gregory Hines is one of the mentors of mine that was very big in my life, and I was able to meet him and dance and share the stage with him. Let it be just for fun before he passed away. So that was one of the best experiences of my life also. Right. To be able to sit there and understand that he was a great man, and for me to see that firsthand.
Right. So that's really interesting, because having that experience with his legendary status, and then now as you ascend, because I do believe that you will ascend into that legendary status, because you're in an art form that always, like I've seen the show. I've seen you perform a couple of times live, and one of the things I like about the tap is that when you leave a show, even though I can't dance a lick, for that night, in my mind I could dance. So
you're
the
shuffling
energy,
all in your head.
So the energy you get from the show, I think that it's an art form that's going to be around forever, and there's not a lot of, I guess that those shows aren't being replenished. So a young person watching this show, what would you suggest to them that wants to get into the arts?
Do it. Just work hard. The thing is that you'll find it if you love it. It'll be there for you. The niches, you hear things, you feel things, you have an itch for something, just go for it. Give it a try, because there's plenty of people that'll sit there and say, okay, it wasn't for me, but I gave it a go.
Right.
I gave it a ride. So that's all I have to say really, is just go for it. Go for it, and then at some point you're gonna find it. At some point something's gonna stick with you, and you're gonna stick with it. And luckily for me, I found that early in my life, and that was something that I knew as a career that I could just continue and shoot with it. So there's plenty of places around here in the greater Hartford area that supports, that loves, and embraces the young community and helps them out a lot. It's just a matter of looking. You got the internet, it's there. Everything's there at the touch of a button now. So if you want it, go for it and do it.
All right. So now let's talk about what you're doing now today. You did the river dance, traveled around the world, the White House. I don't know what could top that. So what are you doing now?
Well, at this moment, we're back off a tour. I'm getting my head around, not living out of a suitcase anymore, things like that. But I'm teaching locally now in the Hartford, Manchester, Plainville, Hartford area. I have a few studios that I am the main tap teacher at. And I travel in and out of New York, work with my mentor, trying to keep my chops. Once I want to take that step to move on and move forward, I have to take that step physically too, and keep my chops correct. So that's right now is what I'm doing. I'm in a resting period, but it's not really resting. It's kind of more of a training camp. Right. For me to get back out there and get back on the grind. And I've taken a year and a half off after tour. Not off completely, but just working and hitting the studio, man, hitting the studio.
I mean, personally, I love Broadway. I love live shows. As an art form, there's nothing that can compare to that. When you see somebody performing on film, it's great, but when you see it live, you can feel the energy.
Different experience.
So,
yeah.
I mean, would you do the Broadway type deal or movies or?
Of course. Movies would be something that I would want to get my foot in. I haven't done it yet. So that's a big focus of mine now.
All right.